Hey viewers, my name's Kara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective. It's pretty early on Tuesday right now because, once again, I didn't end up sleeping during the nighttime hours, and I saw Annie's video was up for Monday, and I thought, wait a second, what day is it? This week's topic is centered around what we call ourselves in our paths, but there are 3 different questions. Before I get started answering those, though, I would like to say welcome to all of the new substitutes, and a big thank you to everyone that auditioned once again. And I'm really excited because a lot of the people who auditioned, I had seen their names around YouTube before, like I knew who they were from comments and things like that, but I had never actually found the time to look up their videos or hadn't come across their videos anywhere. So a lot of you, I kind of knew who you were, but like had no idea what you looked like or anything like that. So I'm really happy that I can get to know you guys now, and you guys are sweet. So yeah, awesome. And yes, I'm taking a walk, but hopefully I will be able to find a place to sit down, and that's why I've actually brought my tripod today. So we'll see where I end up. Got it. I almost always miss the heron flying. What did he just land on? He is standing on something in the middle of the lake right now. Now that I'm settled, first question comes from Red Dragon, a bunch of numbers after his name, Jeremy. Hi. And his question was about, I don't have the full questions written down, but I will put them in the description so that you guys can read the whole question as it was written. Jeremy's question is about how some people think that calling ourselves pagan, because it is from the Latin word that means country dweller, some people believe that it would be an insult to the gods or non-Christian ancestors, as he put it, to call ourselves pagan. And do we think that it would be an insult, or does it matter to us? Do we think it matters? And I don't think it matters, because, like, to me, being called a country dweller isn't a bad thing, because I am one, and obviously being a religion, part of a faith that really reveres nature, I don't see the problem with being called a country dweller. But I saw your comment on Annie's video where you said that it's mostly Reconstructionists that dislike using the term pagan or heathen. Pretty much all I know about Reconstructionism, isn't it? The whole point is that they're trying to reconstruct what that faith was like originally. I could be wrong on that, and I only just now found out the definition. I don't know much about Reconstructionist faith at all. But in that sense, I could see why they wouldn't like it, because originally the term was given to the people who were the pagans as an insult, kind of, or to set them apart in a bad way. It wasn't supposed to be a title to be proud of. So I could understand why they wouldn't want to be called that. But personally, I see no problem with it, and I don't see why the gods would necessarily think there was anything wrong with it, because I don't think they're the kind to take offense to something like that if we are to use the term now to call ourselves that, if the way that we mean it is for pride and is for something good. I think the gods know what our intents are. So yeah, that's my answer for that one, I guess. Black Snake Moan said that they are new to Wicca. Welcome. And their question is about people calling themselves different things like witches, Wiccans, and Pagans, and is there a significant difference between them? If they call themselves a witch, does that mean they're not Wiccan? Or if they practice witchcraft, does that make them not Wiccan or practicing paganism? Okay, to me there is a difference, but not a huge one. I know that some people use the term pagan differently than this, so this is just how I see the word pagan, is that it is the umbrella term for a bunch of non-Abrahamic polytheistic religions, but more so the ones originating in Europe, Buddhism or Hinduism. Even though they technically are, by certain definitions, pagan, I don't think of them that way, so I tend to think of it as mostly the European ones. Sometimes I refer to myself as pagan, or more specifically neo-pagan, because Wicca is neo-pagan. And then Wicca is a newer established branch of paganism that follows a specific way of it, I guess. Like there are certain qualities of Wicca that are different than other branches of paganism that sets it apart. And then calling yourself a witch, to me, and again, I know this one, different people have different definitions, but for me, calling yourself a witch means that you practice witchcraft, which would just be magic or spellcraft to me. So like for me, I am a solitary, eclectic Wiccan witch, if you want to get super technical, because Wicca is my religion. It has to do with how I view deity and how I celebrate the festivals of the year and things like that, whereas the witch part means that I also practice spellcraft that doesn't necessarily have to do with Wicca. And I think that you can have witches of various different religions. Not all Wiccans are witches, not all witches are Wiccan, but you can be both. Or neither. So that's just how I view it, is that a witch does magic. So I don't know if everybody else views it that way. I'm pretty sure they don't. And as Annie said in her video, it's whatever you want it to be. And I say that all the time. If it works for you, use it. Your path is your own. To me, again, like what Annie said, is that what you call yourself is a starting point for people to help them kind of know where your beliefs lie. If I were to say I was pagan, people would say, like, okay, well, what pagan beliefs do you hold? Because there are so many different ones. But when I say I'm Wiccan, people can generally assume then, okay, Wicca tends to revere god and goddess, nature, and the cycles of nature, and follow the Wiccan Rede. So I think a few things like that can be assumed from someone calling themselves Wiccan. However, it doesn't mean that for everybody. For me, that's what I tend to assume when someone says Wiccan, but I have come across someone online who has told me that they are Wiccan and do not follow the Rede at all, which that is weird to me because it's the Wiccan Rede. It's like the one rule of Wicca, so I think if you call yourself Wiccan, other people should be able to assume that you follow the Rede, so I think it's weird to call yourself something and not follow like the one thing that people know about it, but that's the term they choose to use, and I don't know anything else about their path, so I don't know why they've chosen that name for it. And Richard, one of our substitutes, I believe, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's Christian Wiccan, or is it Christo-Pagan? I don't know which it is, and I know that he said he doesn't work with the goddess, so that would take away the god and goddess aspect of assuming that Wiccans revere god and goddess. You know, there are different meanings of it for different people. That's why I say that to me calling myself a witch means I practice witchcraft. Me calling myself a Wiccan means that's my religion. Yeah, sorry, it's difficult. We don't have clear-cut definitions for like anything in this whole religious deal, so whatevs. Third question is from Jasmine, who I also got to meet during the audition process for Pagan Perspective, so hello. Jasmine's question is about some people saying that you can't call yourself Wiccan unless you're part of a coven or have been initiated by a high priest or priestess of a coven. And what do we think about that? Girl, let me tell you, this is one of my favorite things to talk about because shoot. It is one of the things that I dealt with so much in the beginning and really had me worried for a while because I'm a solitary practitioner. I've never been part of a coven. I do not know high priests or priestesses around here. I barely know any other Wiccans. I know a couple people who have pagan beliefs, but I don't know any Wiccans, except my cousin, and she lives across the country, so we've never worked together or really talked about it very much, and that's what I am. That's what my path is. Yet, when I first started out, like 7 years ago, people kept telling me, well, you're not Wiccan until you're initiated. You have to be initiated by someone who's already Wiccan, blah blah blah, otherwise you're just pagan for now and you can become Wiccan later if you're good enough and all that other stuff. And you know, at first I thought that was true, so I was like, okay, well maybe I'm not Wiccan, but I want to be, so shouldn't I get initiated? But how can I get initiated? I don't know anybody, and all that nonsense. And then eventually I realized that was a bunch of bullpucky, because you're Wiccan by what is in your heart and what is in your beliefs and what you believe, regardless of whether or not you've been initiated. However, I know there are some people who are currently solitary practitioners who have been initiated because they used to be in a group and now work solitary. That would be possible as well. But for me, I think there are certain traditions and like certain groups that require an initiation, and you have to go through a process of learning and going up in degrees and being initiated in them to be a part of that tradition, and that's totally valid. Like, I would not call myself Gardnerian Wiccan, for example, if I had not been initiated into it, because that is a tradition that uses initiation, and so I respect that very much. But for me, being eclectic, that's fine. Like, I don't think I have to be initiated into my eclecticism. I self-dedicated myself to this path. If I ever wanted to join a coven, I would expect to be initiated and go through some sort of process for them to make sure that our beliefs match and like find out what I know and things like that. Sort of like a welcoming into the group. But for me right now, I'm a solitary who's never been part of a coven, so no, I haven't been initiated, but yeah, I'm still Wiccan, just saying. If you have a problem with that, it's not your path, so I guess do what you have to do, but this is my path. I do it my way, and I do my best not to invalidate yours. Even if I think, like I said earlier, that some things are a little bit weird by my definition of things, shoot, it's their path. What am I gonna say about it, you know? There's an aphid on my leg right now. Okay. Really good questions, guys. There's a lot of really good questions coming up, and there are so many more that are still waiting to be answered. Isn't that kind of like a metaphor for life? There are so many good questions and so many waiting to be answered. Except the difference is, hopefully we will actually answer all of the questions that we have been asked eventually. Alright, I hope you guys have a good Tuesday, and I will see you next Tuesday, and I'll see you on my channel because I've got a bunch of videos to post, so. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Blessed be. Bye. The sand is still really cold from nighttime. I did not anticipate that at all.